Hello, All Things Montessori community. I'm so excited to just be here and be talking to you. I hope everyone had an amazing Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and I hope that all of you are just doing well. I know this is kind of an intense time in the classroom. If you are in the classroom right now, sort of winding down for the holidays, but you had that sort of 2-week stretch before the holiday break. So I hope everybody is hanging in there. I'm so excited about this episode today. I had a friend and a guest back, and it was so fun. So I had Austin Matt back. He is the founder of the Connected Montessorian. I had him on a few episodes ago where we really got into so many aspects of Montessori, and the same thing happened this time. We could talk forever. He has since opened his school, Upstone Montessori, which we talked about on the first episode. So if you missed that first episode, I do recommend listening to it because this is like a status update on how things are going with the opening of his school. So we talk all about the ins and outs of opening a new school, how to keep running a classroom while doing everything in the admin. We get into observation. We get into practical life. We get into Montessori materials and how people think they're really expensive, but how there's all these misconceptions. We kind of go all over the place, but it's so fun. So I really hope you enjoyed this awesome episode with Austin. The link for the Connected Montessorian is below, so go ahead and check that out if you are interested in joining his amazing online community. Enjoy. Hi, Austin. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thanks for having me back. This is fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I know. I love it. It's like we're getting the update from last time. You were just like on the cusp of all this exciting newness of Upstone Montessori. And now we're in November. So I'm assuming you are like in the thick of it.
Yeah. We actually just had a big push, which we'll get into. But yeah, things are fairly even keeled at the moment. So I'm happy.
Amazing. So let's backtrack a few months to the beginning of school and the preparation and everything like that. So do you want to just give us a general update on how Upstone's doing and how you're doing?
Yeah. Okay. So the slightly longer-winded version, last time we spoke was in May. Things were looking great. We were having open houses. I had hired a guide to begin working with me. We had space. We had most of the materials. Everything was there. Things were looking great.
Yeah.
I think I previously spoke to about last time we had an issue with the lease. We didn't get the lease together in time, so we had to push that off a year to this year. So the materials came in. It was about from when I ordered the materials to when I got them all in was also about a year.
Oh yeah, I mean,
whatever COVID supply chain issues were happening.
Yes.
What didn't really account for that, but it worked out because everything got pushed off a year. The guide that I had hired, I think in February, at the end of July, had some personal things come up.
Oh no.
Oh, yes. And told me that she was not going to be able to continue with the school.
Oh, God.
So
okay.
Before I'm even started, I'm having this existential moment.
Yes.
So month to go, scrambled, was able to find somebody Montessori trained. Was very lucky to find her. Things have been going well in that regard. So continued to recruit families, started the year with 10 kids, still have 10 kids.
Okay.
We just, these past few weeks. So, part of what I'm setting out to do is to really purposefully, bridge the gap between home and school. And so just for this first year, we are doing that a few more typical ways, right? Just because we're new and we're growing. So we had parents come in for observations during about a half hour or so of our work period. We had a curriculum night this week. We had conferences yesterday, and that has all finished. And I'm just able to take a breath, this weekend,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
which feels great. But yeah, overall, they seem super happy. They're impressed with what their kids are already able to do and the things that they're learning just in the first 2 months. So, um, I think that speaks volumes to the Montessori method and just like what kids are capable of in the right environment. But yeah, I mean, things are looking good for the school. We're just now that I'm able to like take a breath, I need to start thinking about next year and recruiting families for next year. We're hoping to add a classroom at our current location. We have room to grow, so we're gonna try to add a class.
Awesome.
So we'll need the students for that. Yeah, but yeah, things are. I mean, things are. We're in a good place. We're in a good place right now. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
So the age range,
Mhm.
are you a mostly young class? Are you growing with your class, or do you have a mixed age?
We have a mix. It
Okay.
skews young for sure. Our
Sure.
youngest turns 3 in January.
Okay.
Our oldest turns 6 in the spring sometime, March maybe, April.
Okay.
So
That's great. I mean, when I started an elementary program, I had 5.5 and 6 year olds, and it was really, really hard to just have the bottom half of the age of the
right,
mixed age group with the plain. I think I'm actually glad to hear you don't just have a bucket of 3 year olds, because I think that would be really hard. And I mean, that's great for your community.
yeah, it's
Even if
it's
it's
awesome.
skewing young, those young ones have a role model to look towards, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. And even just like for my personal sanity, the last 2 years, because of COVID related issues, I worked in single age classrooms
Hmm.
with like, great kids, but that like the mixed age classroom, there's just a certain something about it that just everything just works so well together with kids helping one another, kids getting interested in what the older ones are doing, older ones helping the younger ones. It's like everybody at different points in their development makes it a little more interesting for the guides as well.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, if you just have one age range, I mean, I remember that. It's just like you don't have a lot of material to teach. And then
yeah,
you kind of feel like a traditional teacher. You're like, well, I guess I'll do a unit on fractions and we'll just stop there. Or, I don't know. It's hard to mix it up a little bit. So that's great.
yeah, it is. And in fact, initially I was planning just for this first year to try to just have first and second years of 3 and 4 year olds, um, because then I wouldn't have to accommodate for an afternoon work period with the older ones.
Right.
But it didn't work out that way. So we moved things around and arranged things the way we needed to. And we made it work. And our older students are awesome. So they're really good role models, and they're like super capable and super ready to learn and dig in, and they're interested in things. And it's just fun to be a part of.
That's so cool. So you mentioned the bridge between home and school,
Mhm.
which I think is becoming ever more present after COVID, because the home environment became where we all were. Parents, teachers from home, children trying to learn from home. So, are you doing anything specifically in regards to that in the curriculum and your teaching? Or, I mean, can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, at this moment, we are definitely heavily restricted by our bandwidth, so to speak. Um, I'm
Sure.
giving, I give, so I'm writing weekly updates with, just some of the things that we've been doing. Um, and I'll write a little blurb too about a Montessori, like some aspect of the Montessori philosophy in curriculum or Montessori practice, um, to bring them along with what we're doing in the class to help to inform them a little bit. Um, and then with these observations that we just did too, I think you can say that students have freedom within limits in the class, and you can say that they're choosing their own activities, and you could say all these things, but until you really see it, uh it's there hasn't been anything like it that you've seen before, so you have no reference. So it can be, understandably so, can be hard to visualize without seeing it. And we actually had several parents that were very surprised at. They're like, "Oh, we didn't know that 3 and 4 year olds could work like that." which
Love
was,
that.
yeah, I know, right? Found very reassuring. I enjoyed those comments.
I love it. I always loved like the Montessori surprise when
Yeah.
parents are like truly shocked that their child can focus on something, or maybe how calm and quiet the classroom seems, when you look at the group of 3, 4, 5, and 6 year olds, and it's really everyone's working. I always loved that. And I think observation is one of the most important things, especially, and I'm happy to hear you did it, because it's probably scary opening a new school and then inviting parents in. I think that would at least that would make me really, really nervous, but I think it's so important for your community. So,
Oh yeah, marginally terrifying, right? Because we're just 2 months in. All of the students are they're all new to Montessori.
Oh, okay, that was going to be my next question.
Yep.
Okay.
So we had the ground rules in place. They know the routines. They know what's up. So I did. There's always something that could go wrong, but they're kids and people understand that. It's really how we would respond to those situations that would be the most important thing for parents to see. In general too, like it's our job is not to control the kids. We provide the environment, and we can be proactive as much as possible through the prepared environment. And then when things happen, as things do, we respond accordingly. My dream. So during my Montessori training, one of the trainers is like, keep a list of all the things that you want. So when you run your own school, you can put all those things in place. One of them is a one-way mirror, right? It sounds invasive, but hear me out. Sounds invasive, but hear me out. So that we can do these observations without disrupting the class, and to also use it as like a parent education piece as well. So we're not, once in a while, it's great to have people visit to just watch.
Oh yeah, it's good for the kids too. It's good for the
They
kids.
get to see other people, they get to practice introducing themselves, etc. That's great. But not as a means of spying. Obviously.
Yeah, one-way mirror sounds sketchy, but I know what you're saying.
I know it sounds very sketchy. But yeah, to be able to bring parents in, and even younger teachers too, for them to see how veterans handle certain situations, see how veterans run a class, could be super useful.
I totally get that, because I think that, and especially too, the way I've seen observations done, I don't know if this is how you did it. It's pretty much like a specific time of year, and the children, it's like the parents are coming in like for 2 weeks. And so the kids kind of get accustomed to it. So it's sort of like, it's real and not real, right? Because it's good that they get accustomed to it, so they kind of care less as the parents keep coming in. But then at the same time, it's sort of like this one segment in time that parents are going to be there. And I think with elementary children, I don't think they care as much. I think primary kids they're probably going to be more disrupted, because they might be a little bit more attached to their parents. Elementary kids, they're in the second plane. They're like, I'm good. I don't need you. I mean, they still need their parents, but they're much more independent at that stage. I know with just with friends that I've seen and talked to that were primary teachers would say you could always tell with the younger ones, and they just wanted to hang out with mommy or daddy and show them all the stuff that they work on and things like that. And so I can really see what you mean. Getting a snapshot. We used to do this thing at the old school I used to work at with the toddler classroom. There was a door in the classroom that really wasn't that visible. And so the parents could seriously just sort of pop in and look in, and the kids would never really see them.
Yeah.
And that was great, because they could see what was going on, and it was always like calm and beautiful and fantastic. So I totally get what you mean, because as a Montessorian, you know how beautiful the classroom is, the work, how great it is. All you want to do is show that to somebody. It's really hard to do that without just being in there.
Right. Yeah. And you can say the same thing over and over. You can say it several different ways, but until they see it for themselves,
I know.
It's not going to be the same.
Totally.
I was very explicit with parents, saying like, make sure phones are off. I'm not going to be able to speak with you at length in the room. We have a few adult chairs set up. Feel free to sit in any one. move if you would like to get a different perspective. And then when we're done, we'll step out in the hallway and we can have a quick chat before you leave and I go back into the classroom.
Yeah.
So I made sure that we were on the same page.
Nice.
But we did have the mix of kids too, where some were like glued to mom or dad. Others, it was as if their parents weren't even there.
Yeah.
As to be expected with that group.
Yeah.
There's just like having people, parents, other guides, having them see how the classroom is run, I think is super important. And it's just like there's so much that goes into it to not share that. There's so much preparation, there's so much expertise that goes into it to not share that with others. Seems like a huge missed opportunity.
I completely agree. And yeah, like I think we can both acknowledge and admit that it's really scary. It's really vulnerable, especially like for you, Austin, like you're running this school. So it's not even like, you're not even like a teacher in a classroom anymore. Like this whole thing is like on you, right?
Yeah.
Like that's so much pressure. But to have the confidence and to just be like, yeah, come on in. It's not perfect. We're still in what 3 months in, but come on in. I don't know. I think that's great.
Yeah, we're at a good point. We have a good group of kids, good group of families.
I love it.
Yeah, we had with just our 10 families. We have families from all over, which is great, both here and abroad. We had a family come in for Diwali that celebrates Diwali. They came in and shared that with the group.
Nice, love it.
I put out a request for flowers for flower arranging. And I prefaced it with saying like, don't buy new flowers. If you have some, before they go bad, if they still have a few days left, send them in and we can use them. The next day we've got flowers. Families coming in with flowers. Like we have such a good family group.
I love it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So so you have a guide you're working with. Are you full-time in the classroom and full-time admin?
Yes.
Like what's your, okay.
Yeah. So I work with a guide in the morning. And then I have another individual who is not Montessori trained, but come in for the afternoon because we have an extended day program that goes until 45.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yep. So I'm there all day with the kids for the most part. Sometimes I can step away in the afternoon to do like a little thing here and there, but I'm largely with the kids from I go in for 7, kids come at 8, and so from 8 until they leave, anywhere from 5 to 5:45, I'm with the kids, and then after that, I do the administration work.
All right, so that's a long day. So how are you taking care of yourself?
It's just I'm keeping my eyes on the prize. I knew it was going to be a marathon of a year with some sprints built in. So I'm just ready for it, and this is just what has to happen.
Yeah, it's good to be in that mindset because when you're sort of in that, you're in a building year, right? Like you're really in that crucial community building. You're probably coming up on re-enrollment / just trying to enroll new families, which is such a crazy, busy, stressful time. So it's basically like, did you do good enough to have kids either stay or to get more? It's so hard. And I mean, I worked in admissions and marketing and communications, all of that for schools. And that is a full-time job in itself. So I can only imagine that weight on you. But it's also so exciting. And as you put the work in now, it's only going to get easier in the long run. It's actually just like we do in the classroom. If you set the boundaries, if you do it right in the beginning, then it's way easier as the months go on because you've already set the guidelines. But and so, I really hope that you have a vacation planned or some sort of treat yourself moment. We
just mentioned offline. I'm running I'm going to see my family for Thanksgiving, which will be nice. We're turkey trot people now.
One of those, huh?
Yeah, we've become turkey trot people. So running a short 5K.
Nice.
The litmus test of this re-enrollment as well. Yeah, no, I think families are happy. I welcome the challenge. I knew I was getting into it. Yeah. I don't know. It's I'm just excitement is the overwhelming emotion.
Well,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
As long as you're like, I mean, I know it's stressful, but as long as like it's mostly positive, then that's all you can ask for. So are you using like a system like TADS or something like that, like to run the school like on a platform? Are you using anything like that? Or are you kind of doing it yourself? Getting
um,
into the nitty-gritty of like admin
yeah.
and stuff.
I actually am actively looking for a system for enrollment.
Mhm.
For we're using Transparent Classroom to communicate
I was going to ask,
with
Transparent
families.
Classroom, um, and we can talk more about this offline. That's what we used
Yeah.
for admissions, and it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah, right now I need to explore it a little more. But
Yeah.
right now we're just using it to share weekly pictures with families.
Oh, yeah. It's great for
It's
that.
just like for that alone, I think it's worth it. Um,
Totally. It really is. And yeah, if you ever want to talk more about that, yeah, that's what we did admissions through.
yeah,
And the contract building it wasn't too bad. It was pretty easy,
yeah.
I
I
thought.
mean, I have the all of the language for the contracts and everything. Like
Mhm.
I've got all of the content. It's just how to get it from parents to look at to
Sure.
sign to get it back to me. That's what
Totally.
I need. Um, we
All
had
those
been,
details. Ugh, it's just never ending.
I know. It's like everything.
Yeah.
If
No, I
like,
know. Literally everything.
I just fixed a toilet this week.
I was gonna say you're like the janitorial staff.
Yeah, I'm cleaning every day, and
Mhm.
also like yeah, I'm like cleaning every day. I'm I'm worrying about accounting and receipts.
Right.
I'm thinking about social media and continuing to try to market since we're gonna have to
Mhm.
ramp that up soon. I'm thinking about curriculum and like where kids are at and what materials need to be out in the room.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I really have no life, but I would like to talk to you about transparent classroom, either wherever
Okay,
offline.
let's do it. No, totally. Let's do
Um,
that. Because I don't know if anyone listening has had experience with transparent classroom, but I found, I mean, listen, it's not a perfect system. I don't think there is a perfect system, but from the parents, if they're already comfortable using transparent classroom for the photos, if they already know, I just think it's kind of a no brainer to use it. I mean, if
yeah,
you're already paying for it.
right.
Um, but anyway, we can talk more
Yeah.
about that.
So to that point too, I think in a previous school that I worked at,
Mhm.
the director wanted us writing individual updates about the kids every 2 weeks,
That's too many,
which
in my
is
opinion. Sorry.
a lot.
It's a
So
lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And so, in part of my thinking of as I'm establishing the school and as I'm thinking about these systems, the more time that guides spent writing emails, filling out forms, doing these things, that's less time that they have to think about students and their learning and their development, prepping materials,
Totally.
improving the experience of the classroom for the kids. And
Mhm.
that to me is the job, right? So
Yes.
their time is finite. Um, and beyond that, like you don't want burnout, you want them to have lives, you want guides to be able
Right.
to like did you say, oh really?
No, I said yes. I know. I'm agreeing with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No, I thought you were being sarcastic. Sorry. We
No,
speak
no, no.
we're,
No, no,
we're
no,
very
no.
fluent in sarcasm in the Northeast. So transparent classroom is great because rather than like writing all of those individual
Yeah,
whatever updates for the kids, we send a couple photos of each kid each week.
totally.
um, Transparent classroom lets you tag the activity that they're working on. Parents can read a little bit more about that, so there's got that education piece there as well.
Yep,
And it just makes life easy. So
I agree.
always keeping that in mind too as I'm getting these systems in place and getting things set up. Managing parent expectations is also one of those things to always keep in mind too, with what we do and how we do things. But yeah, ultimately, if they're seeing positive changes in their kids, and like the kids, I think every single one of our parents had mentioned something that their kid brought home that they had learned.
Oh,
So it's really cool to see that.
that's
And they're
awesome.
making connections with things that they're seeing outside of the school too. So
Mm,
we're moving in the right direction.
I love that.
Yeah.
So shifting to maybe some negative things that have happened.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, what's been the hardest part of this experience so far? Like, have you had well, I guess your guide leaving, that probably wasn't
Yeah.
great. But yeah, what hardships, what things have just sort of been like, maybe not unexpected, but just like really difficult to get through. And you have gotten through it because things are going well.
Yeah.
So if you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, the the guide leaving was the thing. That was certainly
Yeah,
a thing that had to be
that's
dealt with.
hard. Mhm.
I think the most so I guess two of the most salient issues that have come to mind, and they're similar, but it's just the amount of work that you need to put in to just be able to do the work to get going. Like
Yes.
all like
Mhm.
dealing with the like registering. We're a nonprofit, so register
Okay.
the business with the IRS, with the state, with the
Right.
city.
That is a whole thing.
Yeah. All of the
Mm,
regulatory stuff that you need to have in place. And
right.
then licensing. We had to have a health inspector in. I had to update the fire alarm system, which one was pretty expensive, and two took a while. I was waiting for a quote. So I was going to one company, getting a second quote for another company, waiting months, following up
Oh my
months.
God.
And then at the end of waiting months for this quote, not even the work, just the quote, like,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, sorry, we're not going to be able to do that work.
Oh my God.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Awesome. No worries. Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm still on their email newsletters. Just because I haven't unsubscribed, but I'm still getting email blasts from these people. It's like, no,
Insane.
I was trying to give you my business and you didn't take it. Um, so there's just a lot that had to happen just to be able to start to then do the work.
Right.
Um, and the other thing I was going to mention is relatedly, it's just a lot. Like I'm spinning plates. Like I'm worried about accounting. There's just so much
Yeah,
to do all the time. Um,
totally. I mean, I'm sure your to-do list could, I mean, I think this is true of teachers, but this is a little bit different because you're doing everything. I'm sure you could work 24 hours a day, constantly,
yeah,
every single day, and you would still have something to do.
yeah,
That's just sort of where I think you're at right now. I used to feel like that in the classroom because there's always something to do, always something.
right.
But
Even
you got everything else with it too.
yeah, even just running a classroom. To your point, just running a classroom, it is
Yeah,
never ending.
never
Um,
ending.
and that's I'm trying to like get all for guides. I'm trying to get all that other stuff out of the way so that they can focus on those things. But
Of course.
yeah, for me, I've got a very nice checklist system that I've devised.
Perfect.
It certainly grows faster than I can cross the things off, but I've got it there. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's the hardest part, just spinning plates all the time. And like
Oh, totally.
like unrelated things that need to happen simultaneously. I have to keep a checklist, otherwise I will completely forget.
Absolutely. So all of that sounds like an avalanche. So in the
Yep.
midst of all of that mounting to-dos and all of this stuff, like how do you stay inspired and how do you keep going? Like how you were talking about how you're like, it's just what needs to be done. And I love that mindset because this is your passion. So like, how do you stay, you know, how do you get out of bed in the morning? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah. So work period, I think. We've got a great group. We've got ground rules in place. Being able to sit down for lessons with kids, and get as one of my Irish colleagues and friends that has said, getting stuck in, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Sabrina. Getting stuck into the work with the kids is just like that's why we do it. So being able to experience that is great, and that's that's for now. That's all I need.
I love that. I mean, there's a reason that teachers work as hard as they do, because it's the most rewarding thing in the world. And I think too, this community you're building, all that great feedback you're getting from parents. You said that you're trying to open a new classroom already. Like that must mean things are looking good for 2023, 2024. So that would keep me going too, because it's not like you're putting in all this work and the building's like crumbling, it seems like things are going really well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the everything, I know we had mentioned the lease, and that was, difficult to get established, but the space is great. The people that, so we're renting space from a church, and the parish council, or the board of the church, working with them has just been fantastic.
Nice.
They've been really helpful. In fact, with licensing, there were a few things that had to change before the fire marshal would sign off on it, and just like outlets that had to be swapped by the sink, and just like batteries that had to be changed in an exit sign. And so I let my contacts know, and he immediately called the electricians to come in and swap the things so that we could get the fire marshal to sign off on the life safety report, so that I could get in my application to licensing, so that I could have the kids there. And it all had to happen in a very short amount of time, and they helped me to get it done. So the space is great.
Great. Good.
Location's great. We've got green space too. I think I mentioned that. Ooh. Some locations that I was looking at, just the outdoor space was a parking lot. And that's just not enough. So we have green space. We've got some woods that the kids can play into, which
amazing.
Is awesome. Yeah. They've got they have a gym, full-size gym that we can use from time to time.
Okay.
We've got room to grow. Like the location is, oh my, like everything is so good about about the space. So
that makes such a difference.
That's fantastic.
Because it kind of sounds like to me that's helping you so much. I mean, especially an outdoor space. That makes things so much less complicated,
right,
especially when you're building a community and these little bodies are just trying to understand how to be in a classroom. It's so nice to be like, you know what, we're going to go outside for as long as it takes to reset whatever this is.
Right,
so
right.
I love that.
And I think I could probably dig up some research that would confirm this, that it's just help, like time outside in nature, in the woods, just helps kids to regulate themselves. And so having that right at our doorstep is fantastic. One of the schools that I worked at was downtown Boston, and we had to get the kids on a rope, walk 20 minutes to an artificial playground. We have an hour, right? So 20-minute walk, 20 minutes to play, 20-minute walk back.
That's a lot.
It's just not what kids need for development.
I agree. The school that I was working at down in Charlotte, it was really interesting because they started their morning with kind of exercise outside, and they had this cool like ropes course and stuff. And at first I was like, it was different than what I'd experienced. So I was like, interesting, but I loved it. I mean, the kids come into school with boundless amounts of energy. And it was just great for them to just get outside and kind of get in. And this school had a beautiful campus. There were like woods everywhere. So it was really, really awesome. And I remember just thinking like, okay, like this is just a must for any elementary or any other classroom that I'm in. Like we are going to go outside first thing in the morning. It was great.
Yeah, it's a luxury to be able to sort of pivot and change your schedule, change things as kids need. Not a lot of schools have that, and so when you can do that, it's great to be able to be built completely around students' needs and where they're at, whatever inputs they need to get them regulating themselves and doing productive and constructive work is great. Yeah.
So what are the projections for next year? How's it going? Like, feeling good about it?
My enthusiasm continues to wax. I mean, again, we have room to grow, so we're hoping to add a classroom next year and maybe a classroom after that. There's room for 3
Love
classrooms.
it.
Yeah, so in attracting first families, I sort of took the shotgun approach of social media, SEO, and Google searches and Google ads, going to events and like setting up a table and meeting people, yard signs throughout the city.
Yeah.
And I've heard from parents and word of mouth too. I've heard from our current parents that like each one of those things I did hit on at least got at least one or two parents in.
I love that.
Yeah. But as we grow, I think word of mouth is going to be the overwhelming means of marketing.
Always.
And bringing in new families.
Nice.
Yep. Being on the internet is definitely helpful because that's where people go to look up things. But yeah, I think word of mouth and having families share their experiences with others is going to be the most powerful means of broadening our reach and growing our community.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure do some of your families have siblings, like younger siblings, that will kind of like feed into your enrollment? Yep. That's great. See, that's fantastic. And then you're gonna continue to get those families that if they like what happened with their child, like you're just gonna have, their kid, the next kid in like a few years or something. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have an elementary school that you kind of work with to like feed them primary kids or a toddler? Do you have any like relationships with other schools, anything like that?
Yeah, there's one in the next town over, a Montessori school that if families want to continue in a Montessori environment, I send them that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's always good too.
Yeah. So we'll add a few primary classrooms over the next couple of years, hopefully. And then I would like to actually first grow down. I think
that makes sense.
We spoke about this last time. I don't think there's just enough happening in like with young children. I think there's massive development happening during that time. And it's overlooked. So would like to build into that space next, after we fill out the primary rooms.
I mean, a toddler program, if you establish a good one, which I know you will, that class will always be full. Like it will, because I mean, just from my experience, like one, there aren't a lot of toddler Montessori programs, unfortunately, good ones at least. And when there is a great one, like people are just crazy for it. So I think that's a brilliant idea because then your primary classrooms would be full. And you could get those kids in from the start. That's so cool. I'm obsessed with the toddler age. Like if I ever did another training, it would be toddler A to I, like no question, like that's what I would do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And also, again, so we talked about this last time, but by means of recap, I guess the 3 major areas that I eventually want to work in with our schools, we have the Montessori classroom, working with having a family mentor on staff whose job it is to just work directly with families. And then also incorporating research somehow, and having the younger students as well will be great for the research aspect for all things, but for the research aspect of what we're setting out to do too, to just have more information, more data about where kids are coming from, and continuing to study their growth and development. I think will be really neat too.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that was such a big thing that Montessori did. Maria Montessori, like she was a scientist, she was a researcher, like that's what she did. And I don't think that's done enough. I think a lot of it is, it's Montessori, it's working. We're not going to fix it. We're not going to do anything with it. It's like, well, maybe we should take a look at it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah. She said it's a scientific pedagogy. So you start where kids are at, you study them, you alter the environment, you study those changes, and you continue to iterate in this feedback loop. And the end result is a prepared environment that's built around the very specific needs of individual children. And I think that's a really powerful thing that nobody really understands broadly
No.
which is sad. When I was speaking with a student teacher who's coming to observe, but will also fill in for coverage as needed. I was saying, I
Nice.
feel like in her studies too, like she'll study, and as in my case too, we'll look at, you know, the big names like Jean Piaget, for example, is one that sticks out, right? But he was born the year that Maria Montessori graduated from medical school in like I think it was 96. He himself had observed children in Montessori schools. He was later the president of the Swiss Montessori Society. But everybody knows Jean Piaget and nobody knows Maria Montessori, even though undoubtedly she, at the very least, inspired his work. So anyhow, so I was speaking with the student teacher, and I was saying how like I feel like I have this like secret of like how students, how people, how young children operate, and like the knowledge of how to establish an environment so that they can thrive and they can do better and be independent and develop all of these higher order cognitive skills that is just good for so many kids. But Montessori is this fringe pedagogy that it's like, it's alternative, it's
Misunderstood greatly.
Yeah.
Greatly misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that's changing. I just don't really know sometimes, because I think that more and more, you know, you see the Montessori-ish stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. I think any kind of Montessori incorporation is incredible. I really do. But I just get worried sometimes that people are going to have a misconception of what it actually is. But it's hard to really do Montessori 100%, especially when you don't have the tools. But I think the biggest misconception about Montessori, and I've told friends this, because Montessori at least in my circle of friends, it's sort of seen as like really expensive, bougie, fancy. I can't afford to outfit my home with Montessori. And I'm like, literally, do you have a cardboard box? Do you have like a paper towel roller? I can show you how to make a toy. I mean, it's actually so simplistic, but I think people have the complete wrong idea of what it is, because like you have all these new like fancy Montessori toys. Like, you know about the ladder thing? What is it called?
The pickler ladder? Or
right.
The pickler triangle?
I had no idea what that was. No idea. And my friends who are all having babies, they were like, oh, Rachel, like I got this Montessori thing. And I was like, what? What is it? And so like, I got the pickler triangle. I was like, what are you talking about? And so I finally looked it up. It's awesome. It's so cool. Yeah. But I had no idea what it was. And this thing is like $300. And I was like, that is what my point is. I'm not saying if you have a pickler triangle, I mean, I love them. They're cool. I'm just saying that's not the measure of being a Montessorian or having a Montessori home for your child. Right. You don't need the elite, you know, most expensive just because it's labeled Montessori doesn't necessarily mean that it's Montessori. There are so many things. I mean, Montessori, it's an aid to life. Most of the tools you need are literally in your home already.
Right. And so, yes, you can buy the pickler triangles.
And we love the pickler triangle. I'm not saying that don't buy it.
Right. They're great. But don't let not buying the pickler triangle or not being able to, or not wanting, or not being able to buy the pickler triangle, don't let that prevent you from creating an environment that gives your child opportunities to develop skills with where they're at. You know, it's a means of gross motor development for the student, right? Like there are plenty of ways to do that are not $300.
I know. I mean, simply just putting a hook down at their level that they can put their coat on.
Yeah.
Like, does that maybe like getting things? I mean, I just think one of the easiest things to do is just putting things at their eye level, like moving the art in their room down to their eye level, you know, things like that. Like rotating the toys, not having a million toys out, you know, having a few that they can choose from so they can make a choice, you know, and none of that costs money.
Right. Go buy a 2x4, sand it down, lay it on the ground, and let your toddler try to balance on it. Like, you know, that's like, there you go. That's an option.
I know. I always tell people too, like, If you have a full length mirror from college that's like kind of gross, I mean, I'm just speaking from experience. I have one, put it on its side, mount it to the wall, and like that will do wonders. Your baby will lay down and like stare at themselves for hours. Like it's great, you know? Anyway, I get really fired up about this because I think this is just one of the main misconceptions of Montessori that honestly makes me angry because it's so, in my mind, it's so not what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's definitely all based on all this misunderstanding of the method and also of kids too. Like it's understanding child development and being able to address a child's needs in a developmentally appropriate way requires high levels of expertise. And it's not intuitive. But the hard thing is that people, like everybody was once a child. They might think they know, but people, you know, they not only do they not know what they don't know. Sometimes right. they think they know when they don't know.
Yes.
So yeah, those are complicating factors in all of this as well.
Absolutely. But it seems like you have parents who are supportive and who are learning. And I think one of the most affirming things for a guide is a parent mentioning something their child did at home or something they learned at home from the work that you're doing. And it's like, yes.
Yeah. Right. So we have admissions interviews, right, before we accept our children. And
sure.
I'm sort of showing my hand a little bit with this, but yes, I want to see where the kid's at, but I also want to engage with the parents to sort of get their vibe a little bit too. You know, I will work with very quote unquote difficult children if their parents are open to communication and open to like hearing us out and getting input from us, and best case scenario, adapting what they do to help meet the child's needs a little better. If parents are open like that, like, yeah, great.
Oh my God. It's so true, because that's usually where the battle is. It's usually, I mean, spoiler alert, usually if the child is difficult, they're not really difficult. It's the parents that are going to be difficult. But you're so right about that. If parents are open to suggestions and what you're, you know, instructing or helping or guiding or whatever, then you can really see that child blossom, because most of the time that's what happens, you know?
Yeah, we're a team. We work together with parents.
Totally.
We have to be on the same page. We have to be able to communicate about things. Yeah, again, even with really difficult kids, like once we get them sort of figured out and what they need, we need to be able to share that with parents and have them, you know, change what they're doing a little bit too.
Right. And like a lot of parents don't really understand or don't know what, it's not that any way is worse or better or anything like that. It's just being on the same page. So the child's getting the same message. And if you're sending a message to them in the classroom that they're responding to and it's positively working, then you just want the parents to do the same thing at home. That's all it is. I mean, there's been a million times that I've seen the whole day's work go out the window in the car line when the child gets in the car. And I'm like, great, try again tomorrow. Yeah. And it's no one's fault. It's not easy to be a Montessori parent. It's not easy to have a child's teacher or guide tell you, hey, can you do this a little bit better? That's not like what you're saying, but to them, they might interpret it that way, right? And so I think it's really difficult to be open and to be like, you know what? Yes, I will try positive phrasing instead of yelling at my kid not to run through the hallway. I will try, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It's definitely difficult. So if parents, if you're listening, just try to be open. What I ran into in the classroom, I was young when I started. I was like 26, 27. And I didn't have kids, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, why are these people going to listen to me? I don't have a child at home. You know, I always found that really, really hard, you know, because I don't have my own kid at home, you know, to have any kind of evidence, right? And I just had to let that go. Like, whatever, I'm the expert. So
yeah. I don't have any kids of my own just yet either, but you know, I know my limits. Like we preach independence. We preach, enabling the child to do the things for themselves, right?
Yeah.
But I also understand sometimes you got to rush out of the door and you got to throw the kid's shoes on.
Oh my God.
I get it.
Yeah. It's an aid to life. I think all of us Montessorians know it's just, it's not going to be perfect every time, because sometimes it's just not going to happen, and that's okay.
I'm curious. Did you come up with that phrase, aid to life? I've never heard that before.
No, I wish I did. That would be so cool. But no, I did not. Montessori did. So it's more in, maybe it was just more in my training. I love it though, because it's really what we're doing. Like, we're giving them tools to be a person. It's all about a well-rounded human being. Like, think of all the stuff we do in the classroom. It's not just like math, facts, and reading, it's literally, just think of practical life in primary. You are truly guiding children to know how to be a person. Yeah. I don't know. I love it. I love that phrase. Feel free to use it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll put that in my pocket for later.
Do it.
Yeah. I really enjoy how she acknowledges that people and children have everything within them that they need already. What has to change is the environment, right?
So true.
And so again, like, when parents are when they're like super jazzed about the things their kids are doing, and I try not to take all the credit, right? But
I know.
we're not like doing anything to the child. Like, we're preparing the environment. We're providing some scaffolding as necessary. We're putting out the materials that they benefit from, and they're doing the work, right? They're internalizing.
Oh yeah.
So we're just enabling them.
Yeah, I remember one of my trainers, she said, children will learn math, reading, history. They will learn that. They can learn that anywhere, but it's like how they're going to learn. And I always loved that, because this is stuff that every person is learning, but it's how, and that's the environment. That's how it's how you give the lesson to the child. It's how they, how you guide them through follow-up work. I don't know. I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I preach this to my parents too. Like, we get to the academic stuff, but that's not what's most important. Like, they need to be, we're giving children to become independent, autonomous, to develop these higher order cognitive skills, the concentration. Like, those are the things that are going to carry them much further. If they have those in place, then they can figure everything else out. But if they know math facts and are extremely dependent, or have a hard time, focusing, concentrating on something, and because they simply haven't had the opportunity to practice, well, then they're not going to be as well positioned to grow and advance in the future. So.
Totally. Wow, I could talk to you forever, but we should probably wrap it up. This was so fun to get the update on Upstone.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for you. It sounds like things are going really well. I am going to remind you to take, I'm glad you're going away for Thanksgiving. Turn your computer off. Try to take some time.
I'll try.
Remember to take care of yourself. I know it's hard. But thanks so much for coming on and giving us this awesome update.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me back. Oh, and can I plug the Connected Montessori?
Oh my God, we forgot to talk about it. How's that going? I'm sorry.
It's growing. No, it's all right. It's growing.
Awesome.
So I've created an online network of guides to just share resources, to ask questions, to gain some insight, called the Children's House Network, where we guides from all over the world can just get together and share some of the volumes of knowledge that we generate every single day. So go to, the connectedmontessorian.org. You can sign up, It's free. Get on there, share a little bit about yourself, share maybe a resource that you like or a thought that you have. And let's just help each other improve one another's practice.
Yeah, it's such a great way to stay connected. And definitely I have that in the show notes. So definitely click on that and join if you haven't joined already. And thanks again for being here. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Rachel.